So in this video, we're going to be looking at the order of operations, or bedness, again. This time, though, we're going to be looking at it with exponents included in our work. So let's just review again, what does bedness stand for? So remember, B stands for brackets, and E stands for exponents, and D is division, and M is multiplication. And just a quick reminder that these are equal. You do them in order from left to right. So division, even though it comes first, just comes first because it makes it sound better. Them does maybe doesn't sound as good as bedness. So that's why it comes first, but they are equal. Likewise, we have addition and subtraction. And again, even though the A comes before S, they are not, addition does not always come before subtraction. We do them in order from left to right. So that's just a quick review of what the order of operations is. So let's look at some examples. I know you've done lots of these, but we're going to look at a few new things with them. So for example, in this one, a little bit more complex because within the bracket, so right here, you've got a bracket, so you know you're going to do that first. But within the bracket, you have to follow the order of operations. So remember, if we don't work with a number, we're just going to keep it. So we're just going to keep the 6, write the plus sign, open up our bracket. Now, we know we're doing what's in the bracket first, but we have to decide, do we do 1 plus 2 first, or we do 2 times 3 first? We know that if we're following the order of operations, we have to multiply first. And I just keep the 1, not do anything with it yet. 2 times 3 is 6. Close the bracket and write our exponent. Again, we keep going. We're still not doing anything with the 6, but we do keep writing it. So you have to keep the problem intact. You can't take things out of the problem, work on them, and then bring them back in. You have to keep the expression the same, because an equal sign means that each line is equal to the one before or after it. So now we can do what's inside the brackets, and we get 7. Now we follow, again, bedness, so we're going to do the exponents next. So again, we're just going to keep writing that 6. Figure out what 7 squared is. That's 49. Now, finally, we can add the 6, and we get our final answer of 55. It is important that you show all your steps, and as I said, an equal sign means that things are equal, so the line above must be equal to the line below. Now, this next one is a little different looking. It uses a fraction, but it's actually just another way of writing division. And I do want you to get used to seeing division written in this format. As you get into grade 8 and into high school, you're going to see a lot more of these types of problems. So as you get further up in math, less often do you see an actual division sign, more often do you see it in this fraction form. The other thing to keep in mind is when you have this fraction form, it's like there's an imaginary bracket, so it's not in it, but it's like there's an imaginary bracket separating the top from the bottom. And so what it says is it's saying do the top and do the bottom separate from one another and then divide them. So let's have a look at what this might look like. So again, we're not doing anything with the 4 yet, so we're just going to write the 4. Now, we can do the top separate from the bottom. So what is 10 minus 2? It is 8, and so we can figure that out. The bottom, we have to do a little bit of work using bedness. So we have to figure out what 3 squared is first, and we do have to show that step. You can't go straight to the answer. Show all your work. So now, next line, again, we're not doing anything with the 4 yet, and actually we're not doing anything with the 8 yet because we've already simplified that. So let's figure out, again, remember there's that imaginary bracket on the bottom. So let's figure out what 9 minus 5 is, and it's 4. Now, if you can divide 8 divided by 4, do it. If you cannot, if 4 does not go into 8, then you would just get a common denominator and work with the fraction. In this case, you luck out because 4 does go into 8, and so you can do the division. So again, even though this looks like a fraction, this is actually division. So keep in mind, whoops, I didn't spell that properly. Keep in mind that this is division. If it didn't work, if you got a decimal, don't do that. Keep it as a fraction, work with the fraction. But if it does work, then work with the whole numbers and actually do the division. Now you can solve it. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So this next one is probably a little bit more easier looking since we've done B. So again, this next one, you're just working with Bedmas. You're following the order of operations. You're going to do what's inside the bracket first. So 5 minus 2 is 3. Now, one new thing that you're going to notice is the use of brackets to show multiplying. So this actually means multiplication. This is another thing that may be new to you. Like I said here, where as you get older, the division sign is not shown up as much and you'll see fractions, you'll see the same thing here. As you get up in grade 8 and into grade 9, you don't see the multiply sign as often. The reason for that is if I wrote 4 times 3, when I get into algebra and I have 4x, it's hard to know the difference. And so what we do instead is we use a bracket to signify that it's multiplication. Don't get confused by, oh my gosh, is this multiplication or is this a bracket? The way that I always think about it, look at it. Is there anything inside that to do? So for example, it's just a 3. If there's nothing in there to do, then it just means to multiply the numbers. Whereas here, on this first example, was there something inside the bracket to do? Yes, there was. So then you're going to do that. And I know that that's confusing, and I know you're going to want to write it like this, but I want you to get used to seeing multiplication with the use of brackets. So now we're going to just do the multiplying. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 3 is 15. Notice that I did both of those at the same time. That's allowed if you can do two things at the same time, as long as they're independent of one another. If they don't depend on one another, you can do them at the same time, and you can kind of skip a few steps. Then I'm going to write my answer, and I'll be done. Now, I know there were a few confusing things in there, a few things that were a little new. So if you have any questions, write them down, and then please ask me about them in class so that we can make sure that you understand and we can go over them. I know that this is a little bit weird to get used to. You're used to seeing a multiply sign like this. This is a little bit different. This is a little bit different. But try to get used to it because it will make your life easier down the road.